It's time to face the facts. We have a housing crisis in Canada.
Housing has been on the minds of many voters, and we've heard from you in droves. We've also heard from the party leaders.
I hear from people everywhere that they cannot find a place to live.
Political parties have decided that there's one thing they can promise that will suddenly fix everything in housing.
Over the last 5 years, the average price of a Canadian home has gone up more than 50%. About half that growth coming in the last year. And it's pricing many Canadians right out of their own cities.
I was looking around to buy a house, but the most of them are more than $1 million.
For renters, prices have steadily been rising, about 5 or 6% a year for a 2-bedroom in Toronto.
I believe we are in the most expensive housing market that has ever been experienced across Canada.
The big issue we're facing is too many people for not enough homes. A big part of the issue is demographic. We've got this very large millennial bulge. In Canada, we've got lots of immigration, which I think is a good thing, but it does lead to crowding in the more desirable locations. And then, of course, COVID.
Yes, the pandemic has driven a spike in demand for larger living spaces, kept interest rates low, making mortgages more attractive, and disrupted the construction of new homes, all factors leading to higher home value. So, what solutions to the housing crisis are the federal parties proposing?
We want to tackle this housing crisis in a serious way, and we want to build more affordable homes.
Building affordable homes is in all the major parties' plans. Justin Trudeau's Liberals have committed to doubling down on the national housing strategy launched 3 years ago, which now promises $70 billion in investments over 10 years. The Liberals are also promising to commit $1 billion in loans and grants to develop a new rent-to-own program between landlords and renters, introduce a tax-free first home savings account to allow Canadians under 40 to save up to $40,000 for their first home, and invest $4 billion in a new housing accelerator fund for municipalities to apply to support faster housing development. Jagmeet Singh's NDP are promising to create at least 500,000 affordable homes over 10 years, create a 20% foreign buyers tax on the sale of homes to individuals who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents, and waive federal sales tax on the construction of new affordable rental units. And Aaron O'Toole's Conservatives are promising to implement a plan to build 1 million homes in the next 3 years, ban foreign investors not living in or moving to Canada from buying homes here for at least 2 years, and release at least 15% of federally owned real estate for housing. 2/3 of Canadian households already owned a home before all of this, and their average wealth has grown. It's only the other third feeling the brunt of this crisis, and some experts say that breakdown explains a lot.
So much of Canadian housing policy has a kind of bias in it to support the interests of current homeowners. And from that perspective, any moves that are going to deflate the housing market substantially are going to be problematic.
That could explain why the federal parties are peddling more surgical solutions for the housing market problem.
We have brought forward measures on house flipping that will discourage people from fully benefiting from the capital gains on flipping a house in under 12 months.
Foreign investors are also making the situation worse. They are bidding up prices, and in some cases, they're sitting on their investments and actually leaving homes empty.
And it's that last issue that we've received many audience questions on: foreign ownership, whether it should be banned, and how big of a factor is it?
There's actually some dispute about how important foreign ownership is. There are plenty of researchers, and I think that they would have, adherents in government as well, who doubt that foreign ownership is systematically a very important force.
It has been important in some places, Vancouver being the most famous example, but after British Columbia implemented a foreign buyers tax in 2016, home prices went down only for a few months. While affordable houses are disappearing, so are affordable rental apartments. One reason, many of them were built half a century ago or more.
The federal government used to build thousands and thousands of rental homes for lower income families in Canada, which they don't do anymore. As a result, the conditions in the rental housing market have just been deteriorating more or less continuously for several decades now.
The private sector over that time focused on building condos, while efforts to develop dense rental housing often ran into another wall: NIMBYism, or not in my backyard.
People like trees better than they like apartments as neighbors, and so people are reluctant naturally to allow more density in their communities.
So, which party has the most feasible solution?
What I would say is that the Conservatives are laser focused on homeowners. And I think that it's understandable politically, but I think it's a real problem substantively for their platform. The major housing challenges that the country faces are ones which either involve renters specifically or renters and places where renters and owners are kind of connected. I think the Liberals look a little better on this. Their platform, I think maybe it's doubling down a little bit on some aspects of their existing policy that are trying to attract for first-time home buyers, for younger families who are kind of worried about their ability to get into the housing market. I think is unlikely to rise to the magnitude of the challenge that the housing market faces right now. And then lastly, if you look at the NDP, I think you see a vision which is probably much more closely aligned with the realities of the problems, and maybe a little bit less in terms of some of the specific details of how they're going to get there.
Wachsmuth says he thinks at the end of the day, Canada's housing problem has become so big, the proposed levels of federal investment probably all need a zero added to them to be able to solve this issue meaningfully and quickly. Do you have a question about the election? Email ask@cbc.ca.